41J. 41J. Negative numbers. This is a bit of an unusual topic, and it's a theory I'm putting forward about negative numbers and the problems they cause, and particularly what we're teaching our kids and expecting them to understand. When I was in the vocational school in Carrickmacross in Monaghan, I was only about 14, they were teaching us Venn diagrams, and that was circles, A intersection, B intersection, C. None of us could make head or tail of it. None of us could make head or tail of it. It turned out later in life, I tried to study it, and I still couldn't make much use. I couldn't see any application for it. But the John Bell, the Belfast physicist, in Bell's inequality theorem, used Venn diagrams to prove a thing to do with quantum mechanics and Einstein and stuff. So somebody in the department must have got a notion that we should all know this stuff. I mean, this was the highest form of mathematics, and they were drilling this into snotty-nosed girls and boys over in Carrickmacross, country people and city people and everything else. They were drilling this into us, and none of us ever used it. So that tells us a bit about our education system. We're much better off than to teach us how to work out a square root or a square measure, or how to make a square or do something else. Now, they did teach us some good things in the vocational schools, I have to say, but that was one of the things I didn't particularly like. Now the thing is, if you have 6 apples and you take away 3, you end up with 3. 6 minus 3 is 3, and if you have 6 and you take away 7, you end up with what? What do you end up with? You might say minus 1. Well, here's 6 apples. There's 6 apples in this bowl, right? Right, now we'll take out 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, there's 3 left. But there's still 6 apples here. I have 3 other ones here. So all you're really doing is moving the apples from this edge of the bowl out to here. See? There they are. I have 2 of them here in my hand. I can't hold 3, you understand that? So why is it negative? Now put the 6 back in again and go to take out 7. Always 2, 4, 6. There's no 7. I can't take out 7. It's impossible. It's only an imaginary figure. That of itself isn't that bad, but it's when you go to use this minus 1 apple that you run into certain problems. Okay. Now we'll put away the apples for a minute. And for good, actually. So I have 50 euros here. And I'll give that 50 euros to anyone that can show me or tell me or point out a person who is minus 20 years of age. Minus 20. Now there can be 20, but how can you be minus 20? So a person to be minus 20 wouldn't be born for 20 years' time, and how do you know they're going to be born? There's no minus 20 in human existence. You can't have minus 20. There might be a certain concept in religion where people are promised to come and things like that, but there's no minus 20. That's the bet. 50 euros. Now, in atoms, the basic building blocks of the world, there's about 100 atoms in the whole universe. No matter where you go, even you went billions of miles and you look back billions of years, you still only see those elements, roughly about 95 stable, roughly about that. But there's only a certain amount. Now, one atomic number, 1 proton in the atom means it's hydrogen, 2 means it's helium, and 3 means it's iron. No, sorry, wrong. 26 means it's iron. I think 3 is lithium. So 1 is hydrogen, 2 is helium, and 3 is, I think, lithium, and 26 is iron. 26 is iron. And each thing like copper and aluminium and all these things and silver have their own number of protons in the molecule, or when the atoms get together and bond together, they have a given number, and they're always positive. There's no minus in nature. There's no minus in a substance. Whatever's in this here has an atomic number, that pen, and there's no minus in it. No minus in it. You can't have minus 6, an atom with minus 6. You can't have minus 2 helium. You can't have minus 26 iron. It's all plus. So where are we getting this minus? So people may say there's antimatter, but the difference in the antimatter and the matter is the charge. The charge of the proton is reversed to what they call a minus. But who calls it a minus? It just means it's the other side. Now, if we look at a battery, this is we'd say a lead acid battery here, and negative is donated this side. Now we know now, didn't know long ago, but that the direction of the electrons which flow, don't forget, with a conductor such as copper, for example, or steel, there's atoms. There's the nucleus of the atom. There's the proton and the neutron, and they stay in the metal. They don't move. But when you put electric charge in here, the electrons move. The electrons can move freely through the metal, and that's a key about conductors, and particularly metal. They can move freely through it. The electrons can move, but the atoms themselves do not move, right? So the electron comes out and it goes through a coil here, and it creates a magnetic field north and south. Now we're moving from plus to minus. We have north and south. We're not calling them plus and minus with a magnet. And even if you did call these negative and positive, and this negative and positive, who decides which is it? The only little indication is that the negative one is the direction from which it flows, and this is the receiver. But why should you call one somehow negative to the other? It's just a human thing. You could easily call them north and south. Easily call them north and south. Now, in the Earth rotating, away out in space, if you look ahead, it depends on which way you look at it, north and south. I mean, the South Pole could be looked to you to be the north, depending on which way you're looking at it. Okay. Now, if you make a magnet out of this, and you put a piece of ordinary steel, it'll attract to both ends the same. It's only if you put an actual magnet with a north pole, again, north pole, it'll repel, south pole to south pole, it'll repel, or opposites attract. So opposites attract, similar repels. But if you put an ordinary piece of steel, an ordinary piece of iron, a nail, a wire nail, to either side of this, it'll attract it. So I'm trying to make out this point about electricity. Electricity is not a good guide, and you can't say that you can't have electricity without negative and positive. You can. It just means that, like many things, there's binary. There's the two. You cut a magnet in two, you still have north and south poles. Now, for temperature, people say, "Oh wait, what about centigrade and Fahrenheit?" Well, Lord Kelvin, it's a river in Scotland. He was a Belfast scientist, and he examined what exactly temperature was, and he found that it's the atom, the electron and the neutron and the proton, as they revolve around each other. It's the input of energy, heat, usually, or electricity, that causes them to spin round. And in our room temperature, they're all spinning round, and all on Earth. But if you reduce the level of the temperature down, if you bring it down enough, you reach 0 Kelvin. And they call this Kelvin. The centigrade and the Fahrenheit is merely the boiling point of water and some other arbitrary figure. I mean, nature doesn't want to know what the boiling point of water is, what the melting point of lead is. It simply says you can keep reducing your temperature until you get to 0. They managed to bring it, I think, as far as that, or very near. This is as cold as you can get. There is nowhere in the universe colder than this. So there's no minus in temperature. People will argue that, oh, centigrade, no. There's no minus. All that the centigrade is, it's picking a direction. You're either above it or below it. But the atoms don't behave in any way to live up to that. They go for the Kelvin measurement, which is the activity within the atom. Now, a duck can have 12 ducklings. If one dies, so 11, she has 11 live ones and one dead one. So the ducks are still there. So if a hunter goes out and 12 ducks fly up out of a pond, and he has one shot, a single barrel gun, and he fires and he shoots one drake, well, the thing about it is, how many is left? Right, there were 12 ducks on the pond. He arrives in, they fly up, he shoots one. How many is left? Well, you can argue that there's one left, that's the one he shoots, or that there's 11 left, 12 minus 1, the amount that fly away. So it's just whichever side you look at it. From his point of view, he bagged one for the tea. From the duck's point of view, they lost one. and there's still 12. There's still 11, sorry. There's still 11 out of the 12. So you can see that how the minus works. It's only imaginary. The ducks still exist. One is dead. One is 12, 11 are alive. You could say the ones that are alive are real ducks and the ones that's dead are dead ducks. But you can't say they're negative. They don't change from being shot. So then you have male and female in nature. We have 2 eyes, 2 ears. 2 is used a lot. We have male and female. So who's to say which of those are the positive and negative? If you said the men are the positive, the women wouldn't take too kindly to that. And they have a bigger role in the propagation of the species than the men have. So again, with gender, where is the negative? Now we take a debt, 50 euros. Here's 2 boys, 2 fellas. Say me and you. Now I have 50 euros. There it is. I now hand it to you. And you take it and you go. You owe me this. Suppose I'm giving it to you alone and you're going to pay me back and you owe me this. That doesn't disappear. That is still there. That is still there. It still exists. It's there. It's just whose pocket it's in. And in banks they use brackets more than see the 50 here. See the 50 in the brackets. They tend to use the brackets more than the minus sign in banking and in accounting. But the point is, and I mentioned this in one of my opening videos for this channel, like it doesn't change. It just goes to a different owner. That's all right. I don't have a problem with that. In my books, this would be minus. This would be a plus. I'd be a plus, and you'd owe me 50, and you'd have a minus in your book. You owe that to me. It's not yours. But when you go treating that as anything else, or buy land with it and get the square root, or dividing it, or multiplying it, you can use the very same system as I use for it. Now, another thing you could use it for, we'd say, is the equator. If you say the north is the equator on the Earth, say this is the planet Earth, and you say the north is positive and the south is negative, and you take a piece of land here, it's 100 square meters, and a piece here, 100 square meters, the square root of this is plus 10. But you can't get the square root of the minus 100 because a plus by a minus, if you divide this get this divided by itself, the figure that will give you the 2 has to be the same. So you can't have plus, we'd say this is 10, you can't have plus 10 multiplied by minus 10 to give you a minus or plus 100. The two have to be the same. In other words, the square root of 100 has to be the same. The 2 sides have to be the same value. You can't have one a positive and one is negative. Now, if you look at this, if this piece of land straddles the equator, right, you can't get the square root of it because this is a different sign to this. You can only calculate what's south and north if you're differentiating it on the 2. Now, it's not only that you can't get the square root of minus 1, you can't get the square root of minus 36. And if it's a rectangular shape, like a football field, and you know the area is X, or you know it's a certain amount, and you know the width of it is 50 meters, let's say, you can't divide, if you divide 50 into the area of the football pitch, you'll get the length. Length by breadth gives you the volume, or the area gives you the area, okay? But you can't do that if it's negative. If this football pitch is the south of the equator and it's negative, if it has one side of it is 50 meters, and you know this is 1,000 meters. If you divide 1,000 square meters, if you divide the length into the breadth, you should get the side of it here. But you can't get. There is no 2 numbers that will multiply together, either the same or even different. You can't multiply 6 by 3 to get 18 in a minus. Minus 6 by minus 3 gives you plus 18. It doesn't put it in the right place. And this is why I claim this is a huge mistake. This should be changed. It is wrong to teach this to kids, and nobody uses it. It's a complete and utter cod. It's foolish and stupid, and people just try to show what they know. And it wasn't always the case. According to the Wikipedia, there was a time when it didn't exist at all. Now, except of course just for taking your few apples out of the box. Now, in Egypt and Ireland, in building Newgrange and some of those monuments, and in the Great Pyramids, they use the square root measurement based on the fact that a square and the rectangle. This line here, Pythagoras' theory, is the square. This here is the square of this. So this multiplied by this squared will give you this squared. So they worked out that, they had that, they understood that. So 3, 4 and 5 will also give you to you. Builders use it all the time, making out a square for themselves and all that. So there's evidence that the people long ago knew how to make a square on this. And at that time there was no negative. So here we see a negative by a plus. You see at the top, negative by a plus equals a minus according to these people. But I say you can't multiply. You can't multiply apples and oranges. You can't multiply a negative by a plus. One is in a different part of the world. It's totally different ownership, totally different. You can't multiply them if you apply this number. You can't. Number 2, a plus by a plus gives you a plus. Yes. But according to the experts, a minus by a minus gives you a plus. It does not give you a plus, it gives you a minus. Because the minus is only directional. And once you go into the minus, you use the same as above. It's only a signpost. That's all it is. It's just a binary direction indicator. It's like my right and my left. There's no difference. The mathematics applies to the weight of this arm, applies to this arm. There's no such thing as changing it or anything like that. Okay, that's there. Now, the direction indicator. Now, mathematicians use this letter I. They realise there's some things they can't calculate using this nonsense, and they put a letter I in, and that cancels the whole thing out, and that does exactly what I'm saying. Why use the letter I? Why use the letter I? Right? 5 apples multiplied by 6 oranges can't be done. It can't be done. And yet they try to tell us with algebra that 3x multiplied by 4y has a solution. Well, if it's used as a line and you're cancelling underneath, maybe so. I'm not making a big deal of that. But you can't multiply 6 oranges and 5 oranges, 5 apples and 6 oranges. Okay, if you have 5 apples and 6 oranges, like that, like that there. If you have them under the line, you can cancel these and you can cancel them. You see that? You can cancel something around. For that purpose, it may be okay. But you can't multiply 5 oranges by 6 apples. This is fairly groundbreaking stuff. All I'm really doing, and you notice I do this all the time, it's like my opinion on electric cars and wind energy and all this. You create a problem and then you make a solution. You recreate the problem of climate change. We're going to fix the weather, and then you make a solution. Why do that in the first place? It's like putting pebbles in your shoe, and then getting special shoes to wear and a walking stick to help you walk along. I mean, would a better idea not be to take them pebbles out? And that's the way we need to look at things, and that gives us critical thinking. I'll decide now whether I put this in for children or not. I think it's all right for children. I think it is. Maybe I'm better not just for now. We can let them check it out themselves. So that's just my opinion. There is no negative number. There is no. 50 euro stays at 50 euros no matter who has it. It's only a thing of who owns it. And many debts are never paid. And so in that regard, folks, I'll on this 3rd of January 2022, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down and comment on the beneath as you feel fit. Thank you very much. Bye.